All right, welcome back to Scouching's 2022 NHL Draft Recap Series. Today we're looking at the San Jose Sharks, one of my favorite teams to track over the last few years in their draft strategy. The last draft with Doug Wilson Jr. at the helm, so all the best to him with whatever he chooses to do in his career from here on out. The San Jose Sharks made a very interesting trade, trading the 11th overall selection for 27, 34, and 45, which gave them a heck of a lot of draft capital to play with, and I think they did pretty well overall. So Philip B Stead, I had him ranked a lot lower than 27th. I had tracked him quite a bit this year at both the SHL and the J20 level in Sweden. I see the appeal. I get it. He's very different from the style of forwards they've drafted over the last little while. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's more of a power skill offensive winger or center, I would say. And the thing that I like about this pick is that if, Connor Geekie went 11th, and I like Connor Geekie just fine, but I think there's a world where not only is Philip B Stead a similar NHL player, but a more skilled one, and I think that might give him better tools to sort of drive play a little bit better outside of physical sort of intensity and sort of power offensive play. He's not there yet, but I do think that that's possible. I really liked him before this season. I thought he was pretty good this year, but I was really hoping he would take another step and sort of learn how to both physically dominate a shift as well as both using his feet and his hands to sort of control play. And I just didn't see enough of that, so he was a little lower on my board. But at 27, I kind of get it. And at 34, Cameron Lund was a bit surprising to me. There were a large number of players that I would have drafted ahead of him, but he's also a player where, again, in these isolated moments, can really play. I heard some very positive things about his play in their 3-on-3 scrimmages at their prospect camp, and you can't take much from that, but it doesn't surprise me because as a player, he's very slippery, very skilled, knows how to move a puck in terms of that skill level that he can bring. Just didn't really, he's not the great finisher that he could be just yet, but there's potential for sure. I mean, he's got some size as well that he can fill out into. I don't know. I wouldn't have picked him this high. I kind of see that he might be one of the 34 highest upside players in the draft, I would say. Like, if you really were optimistic, I'd say he's in that top 40 range, but I just feel like it wasn't there enough. But if you can capture it more often, I mean, I said similar things about Thomas Bordeleau when they drafted him in a similar range. I didn't have Bordeleau ranked as low as Lund, I don't think, but I've looked back on that and gone, you know what? Yeah, like, there are sometimes players where you see them at their best and you want to capture it more and they're capable of it. So with Lund, if he can build on that finishing ability and build some better offensive output in the offensive zone, because he is a very good transitory player, he can get pucks around people, then there could be a lot of hope for him. Matthias Havlid was my highest ranked player at 45, that San Jose drafted, I should say. I really liked that pickup. I mean, that's right. I had him ranked at 35. It's in a range where I'm going, you know what? Take a swing on him. Really skilled, really mobile, four-way mobility guy, not the best defensive player to say the least. I really was looking for a bit more puck distribution and passing ability out of Havlid this year, but I just felt like if he couldn't make simple passes or he wasn't shooting the puck, he was much less effective, especially at the men's level this year when I watched him there. So he's going to need to keep getting quicker on his feet, keep getting more mobile, keep using that skill to maybe deceive guys a little more, open up passing lanes, look for options in the neutral zone, really stretch out the ice in more effective ways, and maybe be a bit better of a puck quarterback. But there's tons of potential for him. I think that as a offensive defenseman with offensive tools, like, you could have done much worse. And if you took him at 27, which was possible, and B Stead at 34 and Cameron Lund at 45, that's a pretty good draft class. So all things considered, maybe here and there, I feel like San Jose may have been able to do better, especially at 34 and 27, but they did pretty well up front. And at 76, they took probably the biggest wild card in the draft in Michael Fisher. I've heard everything about this guy. Some people think he was a first-round prospect. Some people do not. I only was able to watch a couple of games of him this year because the video access was very limited. I found a very talented individual defenseman, really good puck quarterback. He's got some speed, he's got some skill, really good straight line skater, just gets up the ice. but that's not playing defense. And when I found him moving pucks and using skill to create passing lanes and finding teammates and shutting down opponent cycles and then starting new plays with it and problem solving in those situations, I found him much less effective. So he was a player where basically if you gave him the puck and he was able to do whatever he wanted at this level, it was a lot better. And I remember watching the Hlinka tape of him after, because there was Hlinka tape available, and I didn't really see the same things working for him at that level. Pretty good puck carrier, though, and you never know what you're going to get. You give him a few years in college, and I think that, again, at 76, could they have ended up with a first-round talent player? I don't think that's impossible. I didn't see enough of him, and what I did see wasn't quite that. And it's also really important to note that, he must have played 35 minutes in both games I watched. Like, a guy's with that kind of talent is gonna score a lot of points if they're playing 2/3 of the game and just grinding out that ice time. Mason Beaupit at 108. A guy in the CHL who doesn't really stop a whole lot of pucks. You never know, but they got a goalie. They've got some goalies in their system that are doing okay. Now they've got another one. So hopefully Beaupit can start putting up better save percentages, because there wasn't much to really write home about with him. But again, at 108, if you want the goalie, you take a goalie in that range and you go on from there. Jake Furlong at 140. I popped in and out on Furlong over the year. His data on Pick 224 and such was solid, and his production data was solid, good enough to get drafted. But I never really saw a CHL defenseman where I'm going, yeah, this guy, I can see this guy being an NHL player. Pretty poised in terms of getting pucks, reading the ice, making simple passes here and there. But, it wasn't really the same sort of San Jose Sharks style defenseman they draft usually. Like, you have Havlid, Fisher, and then Furlong. And I didn't really see similar things out of Furlong there. So, I don't know. To me, he's a bit of a long shot, but you might end up with a simple, no-nonsense, bare-bones defenseman that could play in the AHL and maybe hit the NHL at some point. Joey Muldoney at 172, I get it. He scored a lot of points. I watched him a little bit over the course of the year, popped in and out like with Furlong, and I just didn't really think that there was enough there to really write home about. I got kind of curious because I saw that he was playing in the USHL for Des Moines, I believe, and in those games, he's a little undersized, and I just don't think he has the skill and evasion to sort of get there. But he's got a good release on his shot. He scored a ton of goals this year in prep school with Nichols. I didn't have him ranked. I did have him ranked for a little while, but I thought about it more, and I just kind of didn't see much where I'm going, yeah, this is definitely a guy that I want to, like an undersized skill guy that I can get behind. He's just, I just didn't see that out of him. Eli Barnett at 195. He's big, he's rangy, he can get around the ice okay for a big guy. There's a bit of skill. He's got sort of the confidence to carry the puck up the ice a little bit, but I think this guy's a long shot, to be honest. Again, it's 195. You're not taking the best swings here, and I don't really see much out of Barnett outside of maybe a end of your lineup minutes eating guy that can, keep things simple and effective while still having some decent ability to move pucks up the ice. And Rhys Lawback, again, San Jose loves to do this every so often in the late rounds of the draft. Just draft a high skill guy that plays at a lower level and has produced pretty well. And I like Rhys Lawback after watching him after the draft. I like him more than Muldoney in terms of the pace and the skill he plays with. He didn't get much time in the USHL, but I'm really hopeful that the Youngstown Phantoms take a step this year, assuming guys like Lawback are showing up. They'll have William Whitelaw on the team this year. You'll have another year of Kenta Issa guy. Rhys Lawback hopefully can play some more minutes and take a bit more of a role there and play pretty well. They just have a lot of fun young players that just they haven't put it all together yet. But they could. He certainly fits the bill of being one of those fun guys that Youngstown seems to gravitate towards. So I'll keep my eye on Lawback for sure, because I think as a 7th round swing after watching him post draft, I kind of liked what I saw. So with San Jose, look, I think that their first 4 picks could all be really nice, solid pickups there. But we'll tab over to my final ranking here for San Jose, and we're going to give them a 2C. I thought the trade they made was brilliant to trade down in the draft. I liked their draft more than Anaheim. I think I liked it more than Nashville, but I still think they could have done a little bit better with some of those picks in the middle rounds, and maybe with that 34 with Cam Lund and I think I see the appeal with Philip B Stead, but I feel like there's still a bit of a ways to go for him to get to where he could be. I think Toronto and Nashville were just a shade ahead in terms of the depth of quality of talent. And you know what? Yeah, screw it. On second thought, we'll upgrade them to a 2B. I think overall San Jose did pretty well. And I think the team that sticks to me is they probably sit between Toronto and Nashville. The Toronto thing, we'll see about Fraser Minton, but after that, they picked in the middle to late rounds, and I thought they did pretty well with all of their picks. San Jose, I think, was a little bit more of a mixed bag, but their first 4 picks off the board were pretty good. So I've upgraded them a little bit based on where they were in my notes. And I thought San Jose had a pretty good draft, all things being considered. Beaupitt, Furlong, Muldoney, and Barnett, I think, are all sort of punts. But I don't think that punting means that everything is terrible, considering that this is a team that had the 11th overall pick and turned the 11th overall pick into 3 really interesting young players that all have, in their own way, some decent level of upside. So good for the San Jose Sharks doing what they did with the capital that they had. They weren't a one quality team to me. I think aiming a little higher with those first couple of picks and maybe another aim high pick in the mid rounds could have put them up there, but still pretty good, and I think that puts them in the top 10, correct? Yeah, 11. So right now they're sitting in the top half of the league. So with that, we're done with the San Jose Sharks. The next one will be the LA Kings, and we will see you tomorrow. All right, bye.